Welcome to Innovate presents Entrepreneurs in Tech. Today we're delighted to have our guest, Greg Shove, who is the CEO of Section, founder of Machine and Partners, and co-creator of Personal Math and many other things, and a newsletter. Greg, thank you for joining us today. Could you please start by introducing yourself and give us a bit of your insights and your tech background and expertise before we really dive into it?
Sure. Well, first of all, Bob, I think you got more things on the go than I do. I don't know. I looked at your profile. I think you've got like 3 companies you started the last couple of years. It's impressive.
Thank you. Absolutely.
We both like to stay busy. Listen, I'm a 6-time founder and or CEO. I did not found Section, one of the companies I'm currently running, or the company I'm currently running. I'm the CEO, but have done the startup game now for 35 years, I guess, and still doing it. I live in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, and want to keep doing it. I want to keep working for 10 more years. I'm 62. I'm older than the average entrepreneur, at least in Silicon Valley, and still have energy for it. Not always the stress. I'd like to maybe avoid some of those high points of stress, but I want to keep doing this for a bunch more years.
Well, first of all, you definitely don't even look a day older than late 40s. The
Same
62
board.
is, I mean,
Same
if
board.
I saw you,
This.
I would say definitely this guy in his 40s. No way.
Okay.
No
All
way
right.
in your 60s,
I
my
love
friend.
this
Uh,
podcast.
yeah. Amazing. Um, Greg, okay, before we start, I always like to kind of dive into what got all of this whole thing of being motivated, being curious. Like if we go back to your, let's say, teenage years, let's say when you were a
Sure.
teenager, was this in the family that inspired you, your dad, your mom, a
Yeah.
relative,
Yeah.
something, somebody you looked up to? Please.
My grandfather, my mother's father, was a successful entrepreneur, and he had sort of a big house. This is in Canada. Actually, he was in Montreal, and so he was sort of my first inspiration for you should work for yourself and kind of get financial freedom, I guess. My dad was the opposite, meaning he wasn't an entrepreneur. He worked for the same company his whole life, which obviously doesn't happen much anymore. But he started literally in the mailroom, and then became the chairman and CEO of the company and took that company public.
Wow.
That was all in England. But also that kind of showed me it's better to be the CEO than not, most days maybe. And after about 5 years of working in kind of corporate America, I realized I did not like working for other people and I had to start working for myself. That combined, Bob, with a moment I had, and I was living in Toronto at the time in Canada, where a guy I know, kind of mentor of mine, said, listen, if you want to be in tech and you want to kind of get into this internet thing, what the hell are you doing in Canada? Like there's only one, like you'll meet more. He said there's a grocery store in Palo Alto. It's called Molly
Hmm.
Stone. Go to
Yeah.
that grocery store in Palo Alto on Saturday and do your grocery shopping. You're going to meet more people in tech that you're going to meet all year in Canada. And I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, right? So I basically kind of snuck into Stanford Business School, kind of went in through the side door, and they have an executive program there, which is a 1-year program. And I had just sold our first company. My wife and I had founded a company together. We never did that again in terms of mixing marriage and a startup. But we had one company together we founded, and we had just sold it for a
Is that
quarter million.
Avalon? Was
That
that
was
Avalon?
Avalon Technologies. Yeah,
We're
sold
going to
that
talk
for
about it.
yeah,
Yes.
sold that for
Yes.
$250,000. I thought it was a genius, and it felt like $1,000,000, but it wasn't. But it was enough to pay for business school and get my family, I was married at the time, and 2 kids, and they'd just been born. Actually, they're about a year old, and so we all came to Palo Alto for me to go to school, which was great.
Amazing. I mean, if I want to go back for just a second and I'll say your dad's story, I mean, literally, that's the American dream. Somebody who started
Yeah,
in the mailroom to take in a company, to become the CEO and to take it public. That's by itself is a major, major accomplishment and an
it is.
achievement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know how we did it, right? It was always inspiring to me. He was eventually fired,
Yes.
which I think happens to most CEOs at some point. So,
Yes.
but yeah, he had a great run, and a great run all the way to
Amazing. Let's
60.
talk about Avalon Technologies, the one you started with your
Yeah, I
wife.
mean a classic Canadian startup, meaning
Yeah.
take an American idea, bring it to Canada, and do it for the Canadian market. So it was and no capital, so it was bootstrapped.
Amazing.
We were a distributor of technology products, and so we didn't add a lot of value, which means we didn't have a lot of margin and we had no moat. We basically hustled through direct sales and catalog marketing, just to get it to a point where it was doing enough revenue, it was profitable, just. And frankly, one of our American customers that we were reselling for wanted to buy us and make us their Canadian kind of division, I guess. So pretty classic sort of bootstrap. Get something off the ground that I knew how to do, tech products in the U.S., bring them to Canada, and then resell them in the Canadian market, right? And do a little bit of currency arbitrage. So it was like 2.5, 3 years, something like that. My first taste of entrepreneurship, really.
Is the
No,
company still around?
I don't think so. No, I mean it was bought by a
I
U.S.
see.
company. I don't think that company is still around. I don't. I lost track of it. I
Interesting.
don't look back much, Bob.
Hey,
Yeah,
always going
try.
forward.
Try.
Great advice. Yes. So, Greg, so pretty much basically after you sold your first startup, you worked for Apple?
So I was at Stanford Business School on a student visa, and I needed to get. You basically had to graduate with a job because I was Canadian, right, and did not have a green card or citizenship. Obviously, I had a student visa, so you had to have a job upon graduation, right? So I needed to find somewhere to work, and I didn't really want to work anywhere except for myself, but I knew I needed to work somewhere. So I got a job kind of as an intern. It was a pretty shitty job at the time, but in the new media division, which was pretty exciting, new media back then, right? That was just the beginning of the end. This is
Yes.
1993, right? I remember that was basically at Stanford where, the web kind of came into existence. So I got in the right part of Apple, and I got sort of a consulting gig, essentially, sort of a month to month kind of situation, but it was enough to keep me in the country on a work visa, which I needed to do, right?
Got it.
Again, we had my wife and 2 kids with us. And, I joined the hottest company at the coldest time, right? That was a moment when Apple had lost its way, Jobs had left. This guy, Michael Spindler, was running Apple. And the
Hmm.
lesson there was never go work for a company that's cold. Nothing gets funded. There's no capital to invest in new ventures. They're so risk averse because they kind
Yeah.
of are trying to figure out what to do next, right? So that was a not a great time to be at Apple. It's an iconic company. It's a great brand to be associated with. But I didn't spend too much long there. In fact, I was fired from there. I basically got frustrated with my boss, who was a full-time employee at Apple. He was like a director, VP level guy. And I basically started doing his job, which he didn't appreciate. So he fired me. First and last time, I guess I've been. Well, no, it's not not the last time since I've been fired. Anyway, but was fired by Apple, and then that was but the project we were working on was really interesting. We were trying to merge basically interactive media, which back then was CD-ROMs, right? That was sort of interactive media with
Yes.
on with online, right? Which was,
CD-ROMs.
hey, we had a modem and you could connect, to an online service like Prodigy or AOL, and so and to do that and using that technologies, we were thinking about building a shopping application, and we were prototyping or piloting a shopping application when I was at Apple. So when they fired me and another guy that was working at Apple in a similar role, we basically decided to start a company and do what we were trying to do at Apple because they weren't going to fund it anyway. They were just they were just so risk averse. It was not going to get kind of the energy and the capital that this idea needed. So that was to market. That was a very
To
early. That
market.
was the year that
Oh,
Jeff Bezos founded Amazon. I'm not Jeff Bezos, and To Market wasn't Amazon, unfortunately. And that was the year that another guy founded a company called eShop that was later sold to Microsoft, and we were sold to
uh-huh.
AOL a few years later.
What was the vision behind To Market when you co-founded it?
Online commerce. It was, you know, every
Straight up.
day there were more and more catalogs in the mailbox, right? So more trees being chopped down, making more and more catalogs. Williams Sonoma, Front Gate. You remember, Lel Bean, just a crazy amount of catalogs. And why couldn't we put those catalogs on a CD-ROM? And then when you went to order, why couldn't we connect to an online service and transmit that order, via modem, basically, and kind of really begin to make shopping a little more fun, a little more interactive, and on your computer. So that was it. That was the idea, and essentially that's what Two
Wow.
Market was. It was a collection of catalogs. So I think Bezos had the better idea, meaning he took a single product category, right? Obviously books, yeah, and built
The
and built
books.
out from
Yeah.
there. We went basically, we didn't want to build distribution warehouses or any of the infrastructure. So we went to catalogers and direct mailers and said, give us your catalog and we'll put them online in this interactive format and then basically, deliver you orders. So we were like an early kind of marketplace, if you will. The bottom line is we were too early. And the cost of being early is you're often too early. And so we would have run out of money and not found, product market fit really if AOL had not bought us. So the good news was we got kind of rewarded for being early and taking that huge risk, sort of having a point of view and creating a vision, creating a product that represented that vision of online shopping. But, we had to get bailed out, which we did by AOL, which is a great acquisition for all of us.
Obviously, when such a company usually buy you out, you go with the company. You also work for that. So you work for you.
I worked for
AOL
AOL
also,
for
right?
almost 5 years. Yeah, and I almost didn't. Quite frankly, I thought, oh wow, I'm a genius. This is my second exit. This one came, like I'm in Silicon Valley and I already got my first exit in Silicon Valley. I should do this again and again, right? I almost, frankly, did not go to work for AOL, and others on the team did not. In part because, by the way, at that time, I think it's a good lesson for what's happening right now as it relates to AI. At the time, everybody in Silicon Valley was saying AOL was not going to make it. AOL was in Virginia. Where the hell is that? AT&T was going to kill AOL. Microsoft was going to kill AOL. Apple eventually was going to, everybody was going to kill AOL, and it was just going to kind of flame out, right? And I was heavily influenced by that until I went to AOL and went to headquarters and just kind of got the energy and felt and saw the numbers, how many new members were coming on kind of every day and using the service. And that's when I decided to, I should get and basically it was a stock deal, right? So I got some stock when the company was sold, but I got a lot more stock if I went to work there. And so frankly, I came to my senses and decided to work there, which was great. And it's amazing to work for a generational company. At least that's what they call them now. Companies that really define, either a category or a part of the economy or are culturally relevant. Nike has been obviously in the past one of those companies. Apple is today. It has been, now for at least over a decade, maybe 2 decades. So these kind of generational or definitional companies are so fun to work at. So working at AOL was just awesome because the growth was incredible and just the energy and the risk tolerance was very high. So we were always trying new stuff, building new products, buying other companies, trying to the foot was on a gas pedal all the time. So it's fun.
Amazing. I mean, can I ask you what was the final amount that you came out with?
So
Or if it's, you
the
cannot
numbers
share, it's okay.
I talk about, the company was sold for about 25, 30 million. That became, though, close to 300 million because it was bought with AOL stock. And then AOL stock was the best performing stock on the NASDAQ, for about 10 years,
Yes.
actually, pretty much
I agree.
all through the
Amazing.
90s. I think it was maybe into the early 2000s. Yeah, all through the 90s, AOL was one of the best performing stocks, kind of, on the exchange. So yeah, it was a good outcome for everybody. By the way, Apple got equity in
Wow.
that company. So in order to, because
Also,
the original idea was incubated there, and and we did not want any dispute with them around the IP, and so
but they don't want
yeah,
to
they didn't
fund
want to
it.
fund it, but
They don't want to
yeah,
fund it, or they
yeah.
couldn't
But
fund it.
anyway, so
Yeah.
I think they did pretty well too. Apple, not uh, uh, yeah, it was great.
Amazing. Wow, a $25 million deals to a $300 million deal. That doesn't happen
Oh,
every
no
day.
kidding, shit! I was
It
the
definitely
luckiest
does
guy
not.
around. I mean, I think
No.
that's one of the lessons of my whole career is that they're not always related. Meaning, you can take a lot of risk and be unlucky, and other moments, you don't take a lot of risk and you get lucky. Like luck matters a lot in these outcomes, as does taking risks.
Yes.
Not always at the same time, kind of thing, right? So in that case, I think it was both. I took a lot of risk. I left Apple. I joined this. Started this the startup, and with an idea that was really ahead of its time. So there was a lot of risk there. And I did have 2 kids, and we didn't have a lot of money, so like we needed every paycheck every week kind of thing. We didn't have a lot. We had no cash reserves at that point. So that was a lot of risk and a lot of luck. A few years later when we sold.
Amazing. Unbelievable, really. I mean, there's a lot to learn from this. You saw the positivity in it. You said, "Hey, 25 million plus working there," and
Sure.
you saw the
Yeah,
positive
yeah, yeah.
side
No,
of it, and
and
it
I
paid
said I
off.
got lucky. I had a
Yeah.
boss at AOL, my new boss, and I did not want to move basically because again, we left California, family was here, and my boss said, "Listen, okay, that's enough. You're getting on planes every week. It's not really working. You need to be here in the head office where everything's happening. So here's the deal. Here's kind of a new job offer for you, new title, new pay, and a new stock option grant. And for every hour after midnight on Friday, you don't give me an answer, you get 1,000 less stock options."
Oh,
I was smart, right? And
oh
I'm
my
like, okay.
gosh.
Midnight came, and I'm
That's
like, let me do the math here. No, if I'm going to say yes, I should say yes right now. Like, let's just commit and do it, right? Because
yes.
1,000 stock options,
Yeah.
at AOL stock, was worth a lot. It got me to
Back
pull the
then,
trigger, which is a
yes,
good reminder
absolutely.
around, I love remote work. I love
Yeah.
distributed teams. I think it's great in some ways to build a company with a distributed team. And that's what we're doing at Section. And I'm sure all my other ventures will be distributed teams. But there's part of it that's really hard, right? It's
Oh,
just great to get people, in the same place, collaborating and kind of heads down working. And we've lost some of that.
unbelievable. Amazing. Just not to get off course, is AOL, I mean, they're still around,
I've
but
lost track. I've
I
lost
mean,
track. I mean, I think they probably still have several million customers. There are a few people around the country that don't have access to
yeah,
broadband or something. I don't know. They got bought and sold like 2 or 3 times, right? I don't know.
yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
don't know who
Warner
owns it.
Brothers
Someone
and
owns it.
yeah.
It's probably like DirecTV or something. There's still a reason it exists, but not much of a reason.
Absolutely. So let's dive into the other side of startup. Like you had two companies, two startups. I'm sure you've seen the tough side, the hard side of it, and the and the mistakes. I mean, there were hurdles. What do you think the common mistakes right now? A lot of young entrepreneurs who want to be, they want to take the same path you did. What's the struggles? What's the mistakes that you see? And I'm like, this is wrong. You
Oh
see
man,
it,
I
and it's
mean,
like, okay,
yeah,
I cannot do
we'll
nothing
need
about it.
hours. Listen, I
Yeah.
think the first one is: should you be an entrepreneur at all? Right? Do you really have a good fit to being an entrepreneur? And I think not enough of us ask that question. I think there's kind of the myth of entrepreneurship is, hey, we should all do a startup or we should all do a side hustle. I think someone told me recently that half of the Stanford MBA class is leaving business school and doing a startup, which makes no sense to me. Like, like you just spent all that money on a great MBA, like go into consulting or go into banking or go
Yeah.
work for some corporation and get paid well and actually pay back your loan or pay back the kind of investment you made in your MBA. Don't do a startup. I mean, it's just going to kick you to the curb probably, right? Most startups fail. So the first question I think, and the first mistake is, should you even do one? That's number one. Second is, you have to love some aspect of this thing, like irrationally. You have to be irrational, delusional, crazy about some aspect of whatever the startup is, either the problem you want to solve, or the solution you come up with, or the people you're trying to serve. Like it's just going to be so hard to build a company. Getting to a million, getting to 10, and then beyond. It just is. The first million is probably the hardest. That or the next, or to the 10. After that, I think it gets a little easier. But it's going to be so hard with such a roller coaster. You just have to care so much about at least one aspect of this business, the people you're working with, probably more than one, right? Because you're going to have to get through a lot of dark moments. That third thing I'd say is, have you really found product market fit? I think all entrepreneurship is all about product market fit. And product market fit's got two things, Bob: product and market. People tend to think it's one. It's actually two, meaning, have I built the right product for this market? And do I have a go-to-market
Hmm.
that works? Right? Do I have a way to sell it, right? Get it to customers profitably
Hmm.
that works? And usually, getting both is hard. That's why most startups fail. They never find product market fit. And I just think, yeah, we should
You
think
know,
about startups differently. We should think
sorry.
about a
No.
startup as a 1 to 5 year experiment to find product market fit. And if you do, then you can think about, oh, I have a company now, or I have the potential to actually build a company. Until that point, you're not building a company. You're just finding product market fit. It's just a giant experiment to find product market fit.
Mhm. Got it. And you worked for other companies before you had your startup. So you pretty much kind of learned certain things that needed in the market. And that's what motivated
Yeah,
you
sort
to
of.
get
No,
your
what
startups
motivated me
going.
was I don't like working for other people because I think they're not as smart as me, and I like to do, what I want. I like my ideas better. No, listen, I joined companies that were already had huge product market fit, right? So, and I think that again, that's why this idea of going to business school and then coming out and being an entrepreneur, I don't know if that's the way to learn entrepreneurship, right? I think if you're going to say, if you want to learn entrepreneurship, particularly around finding product market fit, go work at an early stage company. Don't be the founder though, right? Don't go put your life and your kind of all your and your capital maybe, right?
Yeah.
Just like go if you really want to understand what is this journey of finding product market fit and whether it's suited to you, whether you can pull it off. Go work for an early stage company. Spend a year or 2 years in a company that doesn't quite have product market fit. Maybe it has a product, or maybe it has half of a product working, right? Like it's got something, right? But it hasn't yet found really a repeatable way to get to market, right? Sell and close and renew business. And go do that. And then ask yourself, can I be the founder of a company that has to go do the same thing? Because that, again, to me is yeah, you don't understand that working at a big company. They've already got product market fit. And even if you work on a new product at an existing company, you don't understand the problem. Meaning, okay, I work, maybe you're working at Adobe on a new product for Adobe. That's not going to teach you anything about finding product market fit. Even though it's a new product, they have such a brand, they have such market clout, they have distribution, they have sales and marketing. Like they've already solved for most of the problem, and they're adding a new product. You're not going to learn about product market fit doing that. You're going to learn about it with a company that doesn't have it.
I noticed something in the startup world that do come across a lot of startup companies, and I noticed a couple of things. One, I feel there's so much pressure
Yeah.
now. We talked about it a bit in the beginning of the conversation. There's so much pressure, social pressure. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, you're a failure. You're a loser. And as you said, a lot of young people right now are ditching school, whether they're halfway or in the beginning or they're almost done. They ditch school and say, "Hey, I want to have an idea." But what comes with entrepreneurship, it's not just the idea or you able to build a product. If you are a tech engineer or if you're a software engineer and you say, "Hey, I know how to build something." Okay, a lot of yeah, a lot of these entrepreneurs, if you want to call them, they build an idea, and what's next? But somebody told me, I did an interview with somebody the other day, and he said, entrepreneurship, it's really three things. If you have these three things that in you, it
Hmm.
has to be in you. Number one, sales. You have to be able to sell the product. You have to be able to know, you got to market the product, and you got to be able to bootstrap it. You have to know how to bootstrap it, meaning finance, crunching numbers. Everybody wants money. Yeah, anybody could spend money. Sure, we all can spend
Yeah.
money. But do you know how to hold on to money? To make the money grow and to penny pinch every single penny that was it's given to you or you borrowed it or you have it, you're using your own money. And I think these are the main component what drive a startup, what you becoming an entrepreneur. But there's a
Yeah, I think.
misconception also of the whole world of entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks, oh, I
Yeah.
build it and I done, I'm an entrepreneur, I got a startup, what's next?
Right.
I got a unicorn idea. Okay, you got a unicorn, but
Right.
that's
Right.
okay, that's the beginning.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
next after unicorn idea? And the word unicorn kind of
Sure.
being
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
thrown
Listen,
around
and now we're
loosely
getting
these
even
days.
even beyond
Yeah.
unicorn. We're getting with in this AI moment. We're
Yeah.
getting stories of, oh, we're going to have
Uh-huh.
the first $100 million company with like 2 employees, right? We're going to have the first. I read somewhere recently, oh, we're going to have $1 billion company with 1 employee. That's the future because of AI. Like no, that is such
Mm.
garbage. It's just a
Yes.
dream. Like it's just this kind of mythical, like a unicorn. It's this mythical idea that there's one company that will achieve that. That's always the exception. Entrepreneurship is about making you believe you're going to be the exception, whereas in fact it's the rule. You're going to be
Yes.
the rule, and the rule is hard work, really hard to get to $1 million in revenue, hard to break even and hold on, actually generate cash, right? Hold on to capital. You'll likely fail. I mean, that's the rule. We just talk ourselves into thinking we'll be the exception. And by the way, the media doesn't help because to your point, right? There's this kind of moment right now where the mythology of entrepreneurship is we all should be starting a company. We all should be side hustling. Maybe, listen, here's what's great, Bob. I think what's great right now is the barriers to entrepreneurship are getting lower and lower. And that's a really good thing. Because, by the way, the other side of this coin is going work for
Mm.
someone else, and that doesn't that's a risky business too, right? Employers have less loyalty to employees and vice versa. I think that's appropriate, right? I think everybody is to some extent kind of a free agent. So I think that free agency is different though from saying I want to start a company. So I think you're right, meaning I think that we're kind of overhyping entrepreneurship. At the same time, for those who have that will and have that and feel like they're kind of suited to it, the great news is they can do it. It's easier now. It's easier to get an idea off the ground. It's easier to prototype something. It's easier to build software, right? And get it to market. So I think that all that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But go in eyes wide open.
Yes. Interesting. Um, Greg, let's talk about FirstUp.
Oh
That's
no, that's not
a
new.
new startup that
That
you're
was my
involved in.
last
You started.
startup, and that was that's a good example of a startup. Meaning, 14 years, 3 pivots. By the end of it, I did not own much of
Wow.
the company. It was sold 4 years ago, about maybe 5 years ago, for $150 million. So we got a good outcome there. It was sold to private equity. And now the company's doing, I have not been associated with the company for about 5 years. The company is doing $100 million in ARR, annual recurring revenue. It's a software, it's a enterprise software business, SaaS business. And it'll get
Mhm.
sold again, I'm sure, for hundreds of millions of dollars when the timing's right. So it's a legit company. But yeah, man, talk about a roller coaster. And anytime you pivot a company 3 times,
Wow.
what that
What?
means is you haven't found product market fit, and I hadn't. So I kept pivoting until we found some product market fit.
And you said you didn't
Well,
have
I got
much
diluted,
ownership in
and
the
I had a
company
lot to
or
start,
equity
right?
when
But
you sold it.
the company,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, I mean, over time
The
we
shares
raised
keep getting
$60 million,
diluted,
so we
diluted.
we raised a lot of capital.
Wow.
And in part because we were pivoting, so basically we were restarting, every time. And by the way, that's one big lesson. If you're an entrepreneur right now listening to this, and you have a venture-backed company, so you have investors, and you need to pivot, and it's not really a pivot, but it's a restart. It's probably better for you to stop what you're doing, close that company down, and restart a new company with your new idea, right? I think that what happens is we get in the middle of this. We worry about our reputation. We worry about our investors, which is a good thing to worry about. You have an obligation to investors if you took their money. So you think about pivots as a way to find growth,
Mhm.
right? Find a better market, find a better outcome for the company. And that's how I thought. But frankly, what that means is more capital is coming in, and as founders or a management team, you're getting your ownership is being diluted, compressed by the new capital. So we raised a lot of money at FirstUp over 10 years. And because we were pivoting and trying to find product market fit, we eventually found it. And then we used that capital to grow, obviously. But yeah, at the end when we sold, I did not own as much as I wanted, for sure. And if I was to do it again, I probably would have not pivoted that company. I probably would have stopped and said, listen, that idea didn't make it. It failed, but I have another idea, and let's start again. Because when you start again as founders, your equity goes back up to founder equity status, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So at least when you came out of it, with
Yeah.
a bit of a smile on your face.
I think I think a smile on my face. That's a good description. I got to tell you. So the bottom of that experience was driving home one night. The office was in San Francisco. I lived down here in the Palo Alto area, and I remember driving home one night. It's probably like 9 o'clock. I was usually the last to leave the office, or close to it, and
Yeah.
so some late nights, some nights, not every night, but certainly some late nights. And I remember driving home saying to myself, I think this pivot's going to work. So I just done the third pivot. So we just made the third pivot. And I remember driving and saying to myself, well, I think this one will work. And I really want this, I want this company to work. I want to win here. I want a W. And I said to myself, I'll sacrifice my marriage to make that happen. I would not my kids. Like I want to keep my relationship with my
Yeah.
kids. We had 3 kids at that time, but I'm willing to sacrifice the marriage because I knew, it was, I was just working all the time. And listen, we were, it was a tough time, right? for my wife and I and our family.
Yes.
And that's insane. Like the fact that I even thought that is nuts. And I would never, that's just that was the trial.
You'll never
No,
advise anybody to do
no.
that. What are you
I
trying to
mean,
say?
God, no.
Yes,
Like
not
it,
worth it.
the way
Yes,
to think about a
yes,
company,
yes,
I
yes,
think your own company, the company you founded, your own startup is, it
yeah,
matters so much. And then, because that's how you have to think about it. And it doesn't matter at all. Like you've
yes,
got to be able to hold those two thoughts
yes,
in your mind at the same time. Like it's everything, but
yes,
it's not really, right? It's a company. It's business. It's not family. It's not kids. It's
yes,
not, the love of your life. Deathbed regrets. I would have had a significant deathbed regret if I'd lost my marriage over FirstUp. I didn't. I came to my senses. Um, and but
amazing.
you can get down those rabbit holes sometimes, right? When you just get obsessed and you
Yes,
feel like no matter what, you have to make something work. And sometimes you need that to push through, but just you got to keep the kind of bigger picture in mind, right?
yes, absolutely. Just talking to you, you've been through it all. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, you should have no hair like me, going through what you went through, my friend. Really, literally, you should have no hair. But what surprised me and amazes me, and also it's inspiring for everybody who's watching and listening and gonna enjoy this episode. Definitely extremely insightful and inspiring that you still keep going. You didn't stop because
Yeah.
you were involved in
Yeah,
another one
that's the
called
startup I'm
Section,
currently running.
another
Yeah, I,
startup.
I love Section, and I didn't start it. So a good friend of mine, a guy named Scott Galloway, or also known as Prof G, he started this company 6, 7 years ago now. It was originally started as a media company, more frankly, as a business media company, and then we pivoted to an online
Yeah,
education company, and we just inspired Scott and I and the rest of the team, the rest of the founding team, with this mission of making career accelerating or career changing education radically more accessible, radically more affordable, kind of, get past the velvet rope that kind of, holds people back, I guess, from getting access to, the director level, the VP level, the C-suite, like really just help people, accelerate their careers and not charge $3,000 for a shitty online course to do that. So that was the kind of the inspiration for that pivot, actually the pivoted Section, and when I took over as CEO, and we've been focused on that ever since. We've got 45,000 students have taken Section courses over the last
amazing.
5 years, and we're heads down trying to get to 100,000 students. That was the first kind of benchmark I set for the company and myself, which is let's get to 100,000 students that have benefited from a Section course or workshop. No, 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 no.
Now, is it self-funded or
Maybe I don't learn my
no?
lessons, Bob, as well as you think I do. No, we raised a bunch of venture capital for that. I mean, we have amazing investors, General Catalyst, and they invested about 4 years ago,
Nice.
which they actually did the seed investment, and then they did the Series A. And so, yeah, that means we have to build a significant company. That means we have to find significant product market fit, and take Section to a place where it does have 50 million in annual revenue or more, right? And therefore enterprise value would be, several $100 million. So that's what we're
Hmm.
focused on. It will take longer than I probably thought. Ed tech is a tough category. It's a rewarding and worthy
It is.
category. I love it, and I love that we have a Slack channel called Student Feedback. And if you're ever having a bad day or a bad hour, you just go and check that
Uh,
Slack channel, at Section, and you just see the student feedback. That's what kind of keeps us going in the tough moments, because you're really helping people. So, but ed tech in general, as you know, has been a tough category. It's always been hard to find an efficient
it
marketing.
has.
That's a good example of what I talked about. Product market
Yep.
fit. Our product is great. We have fantastic NPS and referral and kind of student advocacy, customer advocacy. But really to grow, you have to have marketing channels that work and that are profitable. And that's always been tough in ed tech. It's hard to kind of grow using any kind of traditional marketing channel like paid advertising. It typically doesn't work.
Hmm. And I would hope that you have more equity than the previous
I do.
company that you
Yeah,
sold right
yeah,
now. You're
I
still holding
do.
on to a good portion. Good.
But again, I wasn't the
Okay.
founder, so in this case, Scott's a close friend, and we've been business partners and friends for like 30 years. But yeah, no, I've got a decent CEO
Amazing.
stake, as you would
Yeah.
expect for a venture-backed
Yeah.
CEO. I think my next company, Bob, that's probably not going to be VC backed. I think that maybe I finally am learning one lesson, which is don't raise venture capital unless you really are confident you have a business that can get to $100 million in annual revenue. Are you really in a big enough category? Do you have product market fit, and can you drive
Hmm.
growth? Because that's what VCs care about. They need their companies, VCs, that investor class, not angels, not friends and
Hmm.
family, but kind of the traditional venture capitalists. They need fast, big wins. Fast meaning 10 years or less, and big, like really big. And really, I think sadly, what's going on right now, Bob, in entrepreneurship, particularly tech entrepreneurship, at least the VC version of
Yeah.
it is, we're playing, I think, the entrepreneur, the VC game. Meaning, I think the VCs have now set the rules for entrepreneurship, which is we give you a lot of money, we give it to you fast, and we want you to get to an answer quickly. An answer being it's a big company or it's a fail. They kind of don't want the in between, right? They want a big outcome, they want a big
Got it.
success, or they want it to kind of go to business pretty quickly so they can move on to the next thing. I think that's great if you're an investor. I think that's the right model if you are managing, a venture fund of $100 million or $1 billion or 5 billion, whatever, some of these huge funds. I don't think that's a great model for most entrepreneurs. You can have life changing outcomes as an entrepreneur with a company that does $3 million a year in revenue but has $1 million in profit, right? Or does $5 million a year and sells for 10 million. VCs are not interested in that, but that's life changing for the entrepreneur. It could be life changing. So I just think that they
Wow.
don't care.
They don't
They
want to
don't care.
even mess with that, you
No, it's
say.
too small.
Wow.
So I just think that
Hmm.
what I've finally realized is, right size your whole plan, right size your strategy, right size your capital, your funding strategy to what you think is the opportunity. What is the market size or opportunity, and kind of get those in line, right? Don't think you're going to be the exception, and build the unicorn. Think you'll be the rule, which is you have a good shot at building, good small business. And what's wrong with that, right? Nothing. Right.
Nothing.
Like
That's what America was
let's
built
do it. Let's do that.
on.
Right. And that's why
Absolutely.
that's why
That's
I
what
say
America
I think
built
it's
on.
great that the barriers to entrepreneurship are being lowered. I don't think we should all be entrepreneurs, and we shouldn't all be ones chasing unicorns. I think that's for just a few of us who really want to sign up for that. That's kind of that's kind of that can be crazy, right? But yeah, if you have an idea, and usually the best ideas come from you're working in a current company, right, or in a current industry, and you see something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see the
You
flaw.
see
You
the
see the
downfall, you see
customer.
the
You
flaws
see
of
the
things.
customer that's
Yes.
unhappy,
And
right? You see
yes.
the markets not
Yes.
being. That's why I
Yes.
think going to business school and then going out and doing a startup. Yeah, well, 1 in 100 might work, but I bet
No.
most of them don't, right? Not the first time. Like, go work somewhere and see where the opportunities are and learn how to do it, and then say, okay, yeah, with a little bit of capital, maybe, or maybe no capital, I'll bootstrap it, and I can find a way to kind of get started. I think that's the model most of us should be using.
Absolutely. Great advice. Great advice. I would say so. What are you saying? Go to school, learn, get the knowledge, exercise that
Right.
knowledge, work for other companies, learn, gain the experience, develop the connection or the network, and understand how things work. And then later, if you see, you say, hey, you know what? This is what I want to
Yeah.
be. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own thing. I'm able to sell. I'm able to market the product.
Yeah,
And I
and yeah,
know
I think
there's
that's
a
right.
need for it.
Ask yourself this question. I think as an entrepreneur, anybody can get 10 customers. Whatever you give me any idea
Yeah.
with a decent entrepreneur, and I
Yeah.
absolutely, they're going to find 10 customers. Their friends, their family, their professional network. We all can get 10. We can get 20 maybe, but you have to ask yourself: can I get to 100? What
Mhm.
I call unaffiliated customers. Bob, this is the idea that someone you don't know, someone you can't ask for a favor, someone you can't arm twist, right? Someone who's just kind of someone who walks off the street. Will they buy your product or service? Will they hire you, right? Will 100 of them do it? If you can get to 100, unaffiliated customers, whether you're charging $10 or 10,000, it doesn't really matter. You're off. You're onto something, right? Yeah. Then you get to 1,000, right? That very kind of the Kevin Kelly famous kind of thought piece on 1,000 true fans. Right? I think he wrote that 30 years ago. I still think that is so relevant today. Can you get to 1,000 true fans? And paying fans are better, right? And again, then you're probably onto something, right?
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about
Sure.
AI,
Yeah.
the trend for this
Yeah.
year. Everything is AI
Yeah.
these days. Anything automated is becoming AI. Um, what's some of the misconception that big organization or small organization, I'd say, have when they integrate AI into their workflow and business process? I'm sure it's not what they thought, not
Yeah,
what they
sure. Well, first of all,
expected, not
AI
what
is
they
not
wanted.
software. So I think the biggest mistake companies make is they think of AI as software, meaning software works the same way every time, and software is built to solve typically a single problem, and that's why it works the same way because it knows that problem and can kind of solve that problem, right? AI is not that, not yet, and it probably won't be for several years. It's an unpredictable sort of machine, right? It's a prediction machine in terms of the
Yeah.
output from AI. It doesn't behave the same way every time. So if you're trying to automate a
Yes.
workflow or introduce it into a workflow and then have 10 people use it, they're going to get different outcomes. So that is very frustrating to people. It's why they bounce off AI. It's why they pilot and then don't go forward with any kind of deployment because they haven't really realized that sort of it is the magic of AI, but it is sort of the Achilles heel of AI. It's not sort of highly predictive, right? It's a variable kind of, intelligence almost, right? Or produces variable output. If you can get past that though, you can get to the power of it, right? That's why I love using AI as a thought partner. That's why I love using AI as a creative partner, right? It can do things that I can't do. And it's got this range, right? It's got this ability to be creative. It's got this ability to cross, industries and disciplines and functions. Like it's got real range. So its output's variable, but that's kind of its strength. If you want to use it, for example, like as a thought partner, right? If you
Mm.
want to use it to do math, I wouldn't recommend that, right? It's not good at math. Its output is not reliable, at least not yet. Let's assume it might get there better, get better later. But so yeah, that's the first thing. As an individual, I think the common kind of mistake or misconception is it's not like they think about it like a search engine. It's like it's Google. It's not Google. Again, you're not searching for an answer when you use AI. You are having a conversation with something that is somewhere between a summer intern and a genius. Like, it's got that range, right? It can make
Mhm.
really dumb mistakes, or it can be really insightful, the AI, and you're really having a conversation with it to kind of move your thinking, along, right? Yeah, it can do social media posts, or we can do a draft of a newsletter. That's good too. But I think its real power for most of us is as a thought partner.
Interesting. Yes. Let's talk about your personal math newsletter that you have with Taylor. I don't want to sound ignorant and mispronounce the last name of
Yeah,
Taylor. Mel
Malsheimer. Yeah,
Shimir.
Taylor.
Please
Yeah,
correct me.
Taylor is
Melsheimer.
my COO
Yes.
at Section. She's
Yeah.
amazing. She's in her 30s. I'm in my 60s, and we figured it'd be
Yes.
great to write a newsletter targeted to people in their 30s or kind of early in their career. All the
Yes.
things that happen
Yes.
inside of companies for a reason, but you're not sure why they're happening. We want to explain those things, right? Why is your CEO talking about AI all the time? Right? Like, and now that's flowing down from the CEO into all kinds of things, the product roadmap and the marketing, and like, why is this happening? Really, why is it happening? Is it because the CEO wants to look cool? Is it because they're trying to add more AI revenue to make the company more valuable? And so on, right? So all the things you wish someone would explain to you or tell you, and we want to try to kind of demystify that stuff. This week we're talking about key metrics. Key metrics inside of companies drive
Key
behavior, and you'll
metrics.
observe your CEO or others on the leadership team doing crazy things, but they're not. They're doing crazy things to likely drive a key metric. So you need to know what that key metric is, understand it, appreciate its significance, and so not sort of complain about the boss's behavior, but understand the reason she did that is that she's driving to a metric that her investors are holding her accountable to. And it may not be obvious to you, but it's obvious to her as the leader, as the CEO. So go find out what that metric is, right? And understand why that's driving sort of priorities or projects or behavior inside the company. Stuff like that are the things that business school teaches you some of that, but maybe not the real life versions of it. I want to help people every week sort of understand, oh yeah, that's why that happened. Oh yeah, that's why that decision was made, or kind of accelerate them. I think about this, Bob, as I want to take ambitious people who are early in their career and accelerate them to that director job. That director, if you're going to work for someone else, you likely want to work in a position of authority where you get good compensation. You have more responsibility, but you have good compensation because of that. And to me, that's sort of that senior manager, director, VP. That's in that range where you get a little more agency in your work and in your career. So how do you get there a little faster, right? How do you be one of those go-to people that that gets considered for one of those promotions? That's what we want to write about. Those kinds of those ideas, and topics that are relevant to that sort of career acceleration.
It seems like key metrics also kind of not indirect, but talks about
Sure.
accountability. Being accountable. If you're on a certain managerial, how
Yeah.
should I say,
Yeah.
level
I
at
mean,
a corporation.
if you want to get to that level, there's a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff you need to do that someone hasn't told you yet, and or you don't understand what it really means. Let me give an example. Like if you want to get to a director level, let's say in a startup, you've got to be available to the CEO 24/7. That doesn't mean you need to work 24/7. But most CEOs of, again, smaller organizations, and I would argue large, are working or thinking about work a lot of the time. And they'll ping you on Slack or maybe a text message, maybe email. And you don't need to do the work in the moment, but you should probably respond in the moment. Yeah, we need our boundaries. We need times when we don't work. I get that. But again, if you want to be one of those go-to people, one of those people considered, for that kind of promotion or that kind of, that bigger project, higher responsibility, you got to be
You
available
got to be
mentally,
available.
available.
Yeah.
Hey
True.
boss,
Yes.
I'm thinking about that too.
Yes.
So that's kind of the subtleties there, right? It
Got it.
doesn't mean go
Got it.
back and ruin your weekend and work for 4 hours. You can probably do that on Monday, but at least
Yes.
like connect and acknowledge that issue or that opportunity, whatever it is the boss might have reached out for. So I just think that kind of the helping people understand how these things work, and what matters.
Every conversation I'm having with you, it start with a
Okay.
new startup, a new
Yeah.
company, a new venture. Uh, you
Yeah. I
founded
mean,
Machine and Partners,
yeah,
and
simple.
please,
I knew a couple guys that are brilliant, and one on product strategy, the other in technology, and I just felt like these guys should work together, and we should all work together. I don't work there, meaning I founded it, sort of pulled the team together, and said, listen, if I can help find some prospects, I'll do that in terms of, for the business. And the business is an AI consultancy. It was pretty clear to me that, there's AI chaos out there, meaning there's a lot of hype, a lot of doom,
correct.
and a lot of AI projects being started and probably not properly prioritized in terms of what AI projects companies should go first with, and not a good way to prototype quickly and affordably. And so the idea behind Machine and Partners is, let's create a team, kind of a SWAT team or a Tiger team, that can go in and help companies figure out both, where are the highest return AI projects, likely internally, right? For, as you said, for workflow optimizations, maybe for building a new product for
Yeah.
AI kind of externally, meaning add AI or build a new AI product or add AI to your roadmap. But one of those two scenarios, and let's kind of bring in the SWAT team that can help you figure out which projects first, and then actually stand up a proof of concept or a prototype to demonstrate that you can actually get the ROI you thought you might get. Right? I do think we need to prototype faster and put AI kind of to test sooner to see, will it do what we think it can do? Because in some cases it can't, and the best thing to do is build the prototype and shut it down, right? And then in other cases it's going to be, listen, this kind of works, and then let's go forward, right? Yeah.
Any future goals for Machine and Partners in the
Yeah.
next few months or towards the end of the
Yeah,
year
not
that we
raise
should
venture
look for?
capital and And just take on good projects where AI hopefully is augmenting humans. Absolutely, CFOs want AI to replace humans. If you're the CFO, right? And so no,
That's
I'm
not
not replaced,
happening.
but
It's not
you know what I
happening.
mean. Listen,
You think?
I think in some jobs, Bob, it
Yeah.
is. I think there'll be, I think that 70 to 80% of call center operator jobs in the U.S. will be eliminated in the next 5 years. I do think that for certain jobs,
There's no call job centers in the U.S. There's no call
yeah, well,
jobs here. It's all
there's some still, but
overseas.
you'd be surprised. There's some still, but no, I hear you. But listen, we're most interested. I'm most
Yeah.
interested personally in projects that where we can augment humans and offload some of that work they don't want to do, whether it's highly repetitive, and yeah, and then
That's it.
and
That's
get
the
them
key.
working on
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
higher value stuff.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I have to say, Greg, this has been one of the most insightful, exciting conversation or interviews I've done on entrepreneurs in tech. Before we say goodbye to our viewers and listeners and entrepreneurs in tech, any advice that we missed on that you would like to kind of, close it with for our future entrepreneurs? People's going to watch this and say, you know what, I want to do the same thing Greg did. you know I know you very big you said, hey, go to school, learn,
Yep.
get the knowledge, get a job, learn, also create the network, get more knowledge and experience,
Yeah, yeah.
and then decide.
Sure. Last
But
couple
again,
thoughts would be know that your success or not will have a not insignificant, like luck is a part of this, not insignificant part of this, and know that you might do everything right and still, your company, your product might not make it. Just don't beat up yourself. Don't beat up yourself too hard, right? Don't, just know that a lot of this is
don't
timing.
be yourself.
A lot of
Yes.
this is catching a break, and sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. I know that's not a very satisfying piece of advice because there's not much you can do about that, but it's reality. And
It's reality. It is
and the second
reality.
thing I'd say is, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and kind of get in this game, don't forget to look after yourself. So you need high energy levels. You need to sleep well. You need to eat right. It sounds kind of basic, but you're going to go in for a sustained period of effort to build a company or build a new product, and so you're going to need yourself to be in good shape, right? To do that, so allocate some time and kind of effort budget to yourself. Think of it, you're an athlete in these moments. You're a business athlete, and so take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Great advice. Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us today on Innovate Presents Entrepreneurs in Tech. Be sure to follow us and connect with us on social media. Until next time, keep innovating, think out of the box, stay curious, always be curious. And
Thank you,
stay
Bob.
curious,
Appreciate it.
and take care. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share Innovate Presents Entrepreneurs in Tech podcast. And if you're joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.